Elena Vasquez stood at the large window of her office and looked out at the stars. Sanctuary Station floated in space like a giant metal flower. Ships from hundreds of different worlds came and went every day. Some looked like silver needles. Others were round like bubbles. A few had shapes that hurt to look at for too long. She had been the human ambassador here for 12 years. Every day she worked with aliens who breathed different air, ate different food, and thought in ways that sometimes made no sense to her. But somehow they all lived together in peace. The door behind her made a soft sound. Elena turned to see her assistant Sarah Kim walking in with a worried look on her face. "Ambassador, we have a problem," Sarah said. The emergency signal just came in from the outer systems. Elena felt her stomach drop. Emergency signals meant something bad had happened. Something very bad. "Show me," she said. Sarah activated the wall screen. The image that appeared made Elena step back in shock. It showed a planet that was on fire, not just burning in one place, but covered in flames from space to space. The beautiful blue and green world of Lyros Prime was dying. The Veltar hit them 3 hours ago, Sarah said quietly. No warning, no demands. They just attacked. Elena stared at the burning world. The Lyrians were peaceful people who looked like walking crystals. They made beautiful art and music. They had never hurt anyone. They did not even have weapons. How many ships? Elena asked. Over 1,000. The Lyrians never had a chance. More images came in, world after world under attack. The Veltar were like giant insects that walked on 2 legs. They had 4 arms and hard shells covering their bodies. They had been quiet for years, staying in their own space. Now they were moving like a wave of death across the galaxy. Elena ran to her desk and called for an emergency meeting of the Federation Council. Within an hour, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered in the great meeting hall. The room was filled with strange sights and sounds. Some aliens glowed with their own light. Others made musical sounds when they spoke. A few were so different that they needed special suits just to be in the same room as everyone else. President Shaktai floated at the center of the room. It looked like a jellyfish made of light, but Elena knew it was one of the oldest and wisest beings in the galaxy. Its voice came through speakers that turned its thoughts into words everyone could understand. "We are here because of the attacks on Lyrian space," Shaktai said. "This is a dark day for all of us." Elena watched as one representative after another stood up to speak. They all said the same things. "We must talk to the Veltar. We must find a peaceful answer. Violence only brings more violence." The Veltar representative was there too. High Executor Kethvar stood nearly 3 meters tall. His 4 arms moved as he spoke, and his insect eyes seemed to look at everyone at once. "The Lyrian worlds were weak," he said through his translator. "They could not defend themselves. We took what they could not keep. This is the way of the universe." "But the treaty," said Ambassador Quillith from the Centauri Republic. "We all signed the Treaty of Non-Aggression 50 years ago. You cannot just attack peaceful worlds." Kethvar made a sound like grinding metal. Elena realized he was laughing. "Your treaty is just words on a screen," he said. "Words do not stop ships. Words do not stop death. The strong take from the weak. This has always been true." Elena felt anger rising in her chest like fire. She stood up from her seat. "While you laugh," she said, her voice cutting through the room, "children are dying. The Lyrians trusted the treaty to protect them. They trusted us to protect them." The room went quiet. Many of the other representatives would not look at her. Humans made other species nervous. Earth was what the galaxy called a death world. Most planets were safe and peaceful. Earth was full of storms, earthquakes, diseases, and animals that tried to eat each other. The fact that humans had survived on such a dangerous world made other species afraid of what humans might be capable of. Ambassador Vasquez, President Chaktai said, "We understand your emotions, but we must follow proper procedures. We will form a committee to study this situation. We will send diplomatic messages to the Veltar leadership." "We will? How long will that take?" Elena interrupted. "These things require time. Perhaps 6 months to reach a proper decision." Elena looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some showed fear. Others showed confusion. A few showed what might have been shame. 6 months, she repeated. In 6 months, how many more worlds will burn? How many more children will die? While we form committees? She walked to the center of the room. Every eye in the place followed her. "I want to tell you about human history," she said. "Before we joined the Federation, my people fought wars for thousands of years. We learned something that maybe you have forgotten. Evil does not stop because you ask it nicely. Evil stops when someone makes it stop. The treaty prevents us from using violence," said Counselor Vextar, a blue-skinned being from the inner worlds. "Violence is not the answer." "Then what is?" Elena asked. "More meetings? More strongly worded messages? How many dead Lyrians will it take before you decide that maybe, just maybe, some things are worth fighting for?" The room erupted in noise. Representatives began arguing in dozens of different languages. Some made angry sounds. Others flashed lights or released chemical signals that smelled bad even through the air filters. President Chaktai called for order. When the room finally went quiet, it spoke again. "The Federation has kept peace for 3,000 years, it said. "We will not abandon our principles because of one crisis. The committee will study this matter and report back in due time." Elena looked around the room one more time. She saw fear in every face. Not fear of the Veltar, but fear of making a hard choice. Fear of doing what was necessary. She walked back to her seat and sat down. But inside her mind, she was already making different plans. Plans that had nothing to do with committees or treaties or diplomatic messages. As the meeting broke up, Elena stayed in her seat and watched the other representatives leave. Many of them avoided looking at her. They knew she was right, but they were too scared to admit it. Sarah Kim came over to her. "What do we do now?" she asked. Iena looked out through the great windows at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the Veltar fleets were moving toward their next targets. Somewhere else, Lyrian children were hiding in the dark, waiting for help that might never come. "Now," Elena said quietly, "we remember what we are, and we remind the galaxy why Earth is called a death world. The Treaty of Non-Aggression had kept peace for 50 years. But Elena Vasquez was beginning to think that some things were more important than peace. Some things were worth fighting for, even if it meant breaking every promise her people had ever made to the stars. 3 months had passed since the first Veltar attack. Elena watched the news reports from her office window every morning. The numbers kept getting worse. 17 Lyrian worlds were gone, then 23, then 31. Each day brought more refugee ships to Federation stations. Each day brought more reports of death and destruction. The Federation Council was still forming committees. Elena had stopped going to the daily meetings. There was no point. Every session was the same. Representatives would stand up and talk about diplomatic solutions. They would debate the proper way to send messages to the Veltar. They would argue about which subcommittee should handle which part of the crisis. Meanwhile, the killing continued. Elena was reading the latest casualty reports when her door chimed. She looked up to see Captain Marcus Chun standing in her doorway. She had not seen him in over a year, but she knew his face from the military files. Chun commanded the UEF Defiance, one of the few human ships that still carried weapons. "Captain," she said. "This is unexpected." Chun stepped into her office and looked around carefully. Elena noticed he moved like a soldier, even though he was supposed to be a peacekeeper now. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "But not here. Too many ears in the walls." Elena understood. Sanctuary Station was full of listening devices from dozens of different species. Everyone spied on everyone else, but they all pretended not to. She led Chun to a small meeting room that the humans used for private conversations. It was one of the few places on the station that was actually secure. Chun activated a small device that would block any recording equipment. "What did you find?" Elena asked. Chun's face was grim. "Something that changes everything. We detected a distress signal from the outer edge of Lyrian space. A research station that the Veltar missed when they swept through the system." He activated a holographic display that showed images from the rescue mission. Elena felt sick as she watched. "The survivors told us what the Veltar are really doing," Chun continued. "They are not just conquering worlds. They are harvesting them." The images showed Lyrian bodies connected to strange machines. The beautiful crystal-like beings were being used as some kind of living computers. Their unique biology was being turned into weapons. "It gets worse," Chun said. "Long-range sensors show massive Veltar fleets gathering at the edge of Federation space. This is not about territory. They are preparing for something much bigger." Elena stared at the evidence. "Have you shown this to the council?" "I tried. They said it needs to be verified through proper channels. That could take months. Months we do not have. No, we do not." Elena sat back in her chair and thought about the situation. The Federation was paralyzed by its own rules. The Veltar were using that paralysis to prepare for something terrible. And meanwhile, innocent people were dying every day. "What do you recommend, Captain?" Chun leaned forward. "I recommend we stop pretending that the treaty matters more than lives." That evening, Elena stood in the memorial section of the human quarter on Sanctuary Station. The wall was covered with names. Every human who had died in the wars before first contact was listed there. Millions of names. Alana's own grandfather was on that wall, killed in the Battle of Titan when she was just a child. The humans had been fighters once. They had been soldiers and warriors and survivors. Then they met the galaxy and learned that fighting was considered wrong. They learned that violence was the mark of primitive species. They learned to be ashamed of what they were. Sarah Kim found her there an hour later. "Ambassador, there has been another development. The Veltar just broadcast a message to the entire Federation." They returned to Elena's office and activated the communication system. The image that appeared made Elena's blood run cold. High Executor Kethver filled the screen. His insect features seemed even more threatening than usual. Behind him, Elena could see what looked like a massive fleet of warships. "Citizens of the Federation." The mechanical translation made his words sound flat and emotionless. "Your treaty has made you weak. Your peace has made you prey. In 7 days, we will demonstrate the futility of your gentle ways. Choose carefully which worlds you value most." The message repeated 3 times before cutting out. Elena and Sarah sat in silence for several minutes. "He is going to attack the core worlds," Sarah said finally. "Yes, and the council will still be forming committees when the first shots are fired." Elena made a decision that she knew would change everything. She activated her personal communication system and sent a message on frequencies that had not been used in 50 years. "This is Ambassador Vasquez to all human colonies and stations. Authorization code 77 Alpha. Terra Invicta Protocol is now active. I repeat, Terra Invicta Protocol is now active." Sarah stared at her. "What is Terra Invicta?" Elena smiled. but there was no happiness in it. Something we swore we would never use again. Emergency protocols from before the treaty, when humanity still remembered how to fight. Within hours, the response began. Messages came in from human colonies across the galaxy. Short, coded transmissions that said the same thing. Acknowledged. Standing by. Captain Shun returned to the station that night aboard what appeared to be a standard supply ship. But Elena knew better. The UEF Prometheus was a ghost from humanity's military past. It looked harmless, but appearances could lie. Shun brought with him a small team of people that Elena recognized from intelligence files. Major Aina Kozlov had lost her family in one of the last wars before the treaty. Commander William Jackson was known as Iron because nothing seemed to break him. Dr. Sarah Reyes was supposed to be a medical researcher, but Elena knew her real specialty was much darker. They met in the secure room again. This time, Shun had brought files that made Elena's hands shake. "The colonies have been busy," he said. "We never really disarmed after joining the Federation. We just hid our weapons better." The files showed mining ships that could deploy planet-killing weapons. Research stations conducting experiments that the Federation had banned. Agricultural colonies with hidden factories producing things that peaceful species did not want to think about. "How many ships?" Elena asked. "Enough," Shun replied. "The question is not whether we can fight the Veltar. The question is whether you are willing to break the treaty and accept what comes after." Dr. Reyes activated another display showing Veltar biology. They are tough, but not impossible to kill. More importantly, they have no immunity to Earth diseases. The Federation banned biological weapons 50 years ago. They have no idea what we developed before that ban. Elena looked at the data and felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. If she said yes, humanity would become the thing that every other species feared. They would be the violent Deathworlders who could not be trusted to keep their promises. If she said no, the Veltar would destroy the Federation and enslave or kill billions of innocent beings. "The Council will vote to surrender," Major Kozlov said. "They would rather live as slaves than fight as free beings." "And if we fight?" Elena asked. "And we fight alone," Commander Jackson replied. "At least at first. But I think some species will remember what it means to have spine once they see what we can do." Elena closed her eyes and thought about her daughter. The girl was studying. On Earth, learning to believe in peaceful solutions and diplomatic answers. What kind of galaxy was Elena building for her? "Show me everything," she said finally. "Every weapon, every ship, every plan we have hidden away. And get me a communication. Channel to High Executor Kethfer. It is time the Veltar learned what happens when you threaten a Deathworlder's family." The room went quiet. Everyone understood what she was saying. The Treaty of Non-Aggression was about to die. In its place would be something much older and much more dangerous. Elena Vasquez, who had spent 12 years learning to be a diplomat, was about to remember how to be human. The meeting was set to take place in the neutral zone between Federation and Veltar space. Elena traveled there aboard what looked like a standard diplomatic shuttle, but she was not alone. Hidden throughout the ship were some of humanity's most dangerous secrets. Captain Shun piloted the shuttle, while Elena reviewed the files one last time. The numbers were staggering. For 50 years, humanity had pretended to be peaceful, but they had never stopped preparing for war. 300 ships, she said quietly. "We have 300 ships ready to fight, and the Federation has no idea they exist." "More than that," Chun replied. "Those are just the ones we can mobilize quickly. There are others. Ships hidden in asteroid fields. Weapons platforms disguised as research stations. Colonies that can become fortress worlds in a matter of hours." Elena shook her head. How did we hide all of this? We learned from the best teachers in the galaxy, Sean said with a grim smile. We learned from you politicians. We learned how to make lies look like truth and weapons look like tools. The diplomatic platform came into view ahead of them. It was a simple structure, just a meeting room with life support systems. Neutral ground where enemies could talk without fear of attack. High Executor Kethfer was already there when Elena arrived. The giant insect being towered over her, his 4 arms moving in what she had learned were expressions of confidence and dominance. Behind him stood 6 guards, each one nearly as large as their leader. Ambassador Vasquez, Kethfer said through his translator. I am surprised you requested this meeting. I thought your Federation preferred to send messages and form committees. Elena sat down at the simple table in the center of the room. The Federation does prefer those things. But I am here representing humanity, not the Federation. Kethfer's compound eyes glittered with what might have been amusement. An interesting distinction. Tell me, what does humanity want that the Federation does not? We want you to stop killing innocent people, Elena said simply. The sound Kethfer made was definitely laughter this time. Your species interests me, Deathworlder. You survived on one of the most dangerous planets we have ever catalogued. Yet you signed a treaty promising never to use violence. Did 50 years of peace make you forget what you truly are? Elena activated what looked like a standard diplomatic recorder. In reality, the device was sending coded signals to human ships positioned throughout the galaxy. High Executor, you made one critical mistake in your planning, she said. You assumed that because humanity signed a peace treaty, we stopped being warriors. The lights in the diplomatic platform suddenly changed to emergency red. Kethfer, Zij. Guards moved to defensive positions, but Elena did not move from her chair. Right now, she continued in the same calm voice, 300 human ships are dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of your home system. Your sensors will read them as mining vessels, research ships, and colony transports. Completely harmless according to all Federation databases. Kethfar's expression began to change. The confidence was still there, but now there was something else. Uncertainty. Impossible, he said. Our intelligence shows that humanity has only 12 military vessels. All of them are monitored by Federation observers. Your intelligence shows you what we wanted you to see, Elena replied. Did you really think the species that conquered a deaf world would give up every survival instinct when they reached the stars? The communication system in the platform crackled to life. Captain Sean's voice filled the room. Ambassador, Operation Broken Chain is active. First Wave has achieved orbital control around Veltar Prime. Enemy resistance was minimal. They never expected anyone to actually fight back. Elena watched Kethfer's expression shift from uncertainty to anger to something that might have been fear. Around him, his guards were making clicking sounds that she recognized as alarm calls. The terms are simple, she said. Order your fleets to withdraw from Lyrian space immediately. Return all prisoners. Submit to Federation oversight of your military. Do this now, or in 6 hours your homeworld becomes a demonstration of what happens when you threaten people under human protection. Kethfer slammed one of his 4 hands on the table. You would not dare. The Federation will destroy you for this treaty violation. Every species in the galaxy will turn against you. Elena's expression did not change. Let them try. Do you know what humans call the Treaty of Non-Aggression in our private communications? We call it the leash, and you just reminded every human in the galaxy why we should never have let anyone else hold it. She activated her personal communicator. Captain Shun, transmit the demonstration package to all Federation frequencies. It is time the galaxy saw what we have been holding back. On screens throughout Federation space, the same images began to appear. Veltar warships burning in orbit around their own hold, their mighty fleets scattered and broken. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had been crushed in less than an hour. But the demonstration was not just about military power. Alina activated another signal, and new images appeared. These showed the Veltar weapons that had been used against the Lyrians. But now those same weapons were being turned against their creators. Biological warfare, Elena explained to the shocked Kethver. Something your species has no experience with, because you never had to survive on a death world. Earth taught us that sometimes the smallest weapons are the most effective. Kethver was making sounds that the translator could not interpret. His guards were backing away from Elena, as if she had become something dangerous. You are monsters, he finally managed to say. Elena stood up from her chair. For the first time in the meeting, she showed emotion. But it was not anger. It was sadness. No, she said quietly. We are what you made us remember we are. For 50 years, we tried to be something else. We tried to be peaceful. We tried to be civilized. We tried to be the kind of species that the galaxy could accept. She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. But you taught us something important today. The galaxy does not want us to be peaceful. It wants us to be sheep. It wants us to stand by and watch while innocents die. It wants us to follow rules that protect the comfortable and abandon the helpless. Elena turned back to face Kethver. So we choose to be monsters instead. Because monsters can do what sheep cannot. Monsters can protect the innocent when the civilized world refuses to act. A communication system activated again. This time it was not Captain Chan's voice, but a signal from Earth itself. Elena recognized the code immediately. Protocol 77 Alpha. Confirmed, the mechanical voice announced. Terra Invicta is now active across all human colonies. The Treaty of Non-Aggression is hereby voided by human authority. All defensive alliances are terminated. Humanity withdraws from Federation oversight. Effective immediately. Elena looked at Kethver and saw something she had never expected to see in a Veltar's face. Fear. Real, genuine fear. Your homeworld is undefended, she said. Your fleets are scattered. Your allies are reconsidering their positions. You have two choices, High Executor. You can order your forces to withdraw and submit to human terms, or you can watch your entire species burn. Kethver's translator was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was very different from before. What guarantee do I have that you will honor any agreement? You have already proven that human promises mean nothing. Elena smiled, and it was not a nice smile. You have the guarantee that we are still talking instead of shooting. But that guarantee expires in exactly 5 hours and 57 minutes. She walked toward the door of the platform. Choose wisely, High Executor. This is the only offer you will receive. As Elena returned to her shuttle, she knew that everything had changed. The treaty was dead, the Federation's authority was broken, and humanity had just announced to the galaxy that the age of peaceful Deathworlders was over. The message was simple and clear. Threaten the innocent, and discover what creatures from a death world are truly capable of when they stop pretending to be civilized. The Veltar surrender came 3 hours later. High Executor Kethver's message was broadcast across all Federation frequencies, his voice shaking with what humans had never heard from his species before. Defeat. All Veltar forces are ordered to withdraw from Lyrian space immediately. His translator rendered the words in flat, mechanical tones. All prisoners will be returned. The hegemony submits to human terms. Elena watched the broadcast from the command center of the UEF. Prometheus. Around her, human officers worked at stations that had been hidden for 50 years. The ship itself was a miracle of deception. From the outside, it looked like a simple cargo vessel. Inside, it carried enough firepower to level a planet. Captain Chun stood beside her, his expression grim. It's done. The Veltar fleets are already turning around. Their homeworld is secure, but they know we could have destroyed it. And the Federation's response? Elena asked. About what you would expect. Emergency session called. Charges being prepared. They want your head on a plate. Elena nodded. She had expected this. The Federation could not allow humanity's actions to go unpunished. To do so would be to admit that their entire system was broken. How long before they move against us? Hard to say. They still think we only have a few ships. They have no idea how deep our preparations go. Elena looked at the tactical display showing human positions throughout the galaxy. Chun was right. The Federation had no idea what they were really facing. Show me the colonial status reports, she said. The display changed to show messages coming in from human settlements across known space. Each message was the same. Terra Invicta confirmed. Standing ready. New Johannesburg had activated its orbital defense platforms. Geneva Colony had brought its hidden factories online. The mining stations in the Kuiper Belt had revealed themselves to be military installations. Across human space, the illusion of peaceful colonists was dropping. A way to reveal something much more dangerous. Casualties? Elena asked. Minimal. The Veltar never expected resistance from anyone, let alone from species they thought were disarmed. Their forces were positioned for conquering sheep, not fighting wolves. Dr. Sarah Reyes approached from her workstation. The biological warfare specialist looked tired but satisfied. The pathogen deployment was effective, she reported. Veltar immune systems had no defense against Earth-based diseases. A few targeted releases and their entire command structure was compromised. Elena felt a chill. Casualties from the biological attack? Limited to military targets. The pathogen was designed to affect only Veltar physiology and only individuals carrying specific genetic markers. Their civilians were never at risk. Good. We are not monsters, no matter what the galaxy thinks of us now. The communication system chimed with an incoming priority message. Elena was not surprised to see the face of President Shaktai appear on the screen. The jellyfish-like being's bioluminescent patterns were flashing with what Elena had learned to recognize as barely controlled fury. Ambassador Vasquez, the translation system made Shaktai's thoughts into words. You will return to Sanctuary Station immediately. You are under arrest for violation of the Treaty of Non-Aggression, unauthorized use of military force, and crimes against galactic peace. Elena looked at the alien president for a long moment before responding. President Shaktai, I am no longer Ambassador Vasquez. That position required me to represent the Federation's interests. I now represent only humanity's interests, and humanity is no longer a member of your Federation. The bioluminescent patterns on Shaktai's body shifted to what Elena recognized as shock. You cannot simply withdraw from the Federation. The treaty is dead, Elena interrupted. Humanity voided it the moment we chose to protect innocent lives over bureaucratic procedures. We tried your way for 50 years. We watched. Committees debate while children died. No more. The consequences of your actions will be severe, Shaktai warned. Every species in the galaxy will unite against you. You will be isolated, cut off from trade and communication. Your colonies will wither without Federation support. Elena smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Mr. President, you still do not understand what you are dealing with. Let me explain. She activated a holographic display showing human positions throughout the galaxy. Shaktai's patterns shifted to what might have been fear as the true scope of human preparations became clear. For 50 years, you thought humanity had 12 military vessels under Federation oversight. The truth is that we have over 3,000 ships capable of military action. You thought our colonies were dependent on Federation trade. The truth is that we have been completely self-sufficient for decades. The display showed mining operations, manufacturing centers, research facilities, and agricultural worlds. All of them were under human control. All of them were capable of supporting human civilization without any outside help. You thought we were grateful for your protection, Elena continued. The truth is that we have been protecting you. Do you know how many species have considered attacking Federation worlds over the past 50 years? Do you know how many changed their minds when they remembered that humans were Federation members? Jacques Tai's translation system was silent for several seconds. When it finally spoke, the words came slowly. You ... You used our fear of you as a shield for the entire Federation? Of course we did. We are Deathworlders. Survival is what we do best. We survived on Earth by being the most dangerous predators on a planet full of dangerous predators. We survived in space by being the most dangerous species in a galaxy full of dangerous species. Elena leaned forward, her human eyes meeting Jacques Tai's alien gaze. The difference is that we chose to use our strength to protect the weak instead of consuming them. But you mistook our choice for weakness. You thought our restraint meant we were harmless. Today you learned the truth. Captain Chun stepped forward. Mr. President, humanity is withdrawing from Federation space. We will establish our own territories and our own alliances. Any species that wishes to join us is welcome. Any species that wishes to remain under Federation protection is also welcome. But we will no longer pretend that peace is more important than justice. This will mean war, Jacques Tai said quietly. Only if you make it war, Elena replied. We have no desire to conquer Federation worlds. We have no interest in ruling other species. We simply refuse to stand by and watch innocents die while you debate proper procedures. She stood up from her chair. The galaxy is changing, Mr. President. The age of passive peace is over. You can adapt to the new reality, or you can cling to the old illusions. The choice is yours. The communication ended, leaving the command center in silence. Elena looked around at the human officers working at their stations. These were her people, children of a death world who had learned to survive by being stronger, faster, and more ruthless than anything that tried to kill them. What now? Captain Shun asked. Elena walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Lyrian children were safe again. Somewhere else, Federation representatives were probably meeting in emergency session, trying to figure out how to respond to humanity's actions. Now we build something new, she said. Something better than what came before. A galaxy where strength protects the weak instead of preying on them. A galaxy where justice matters more than procedure. She turned back to face her crew. Send a message to all human colonies. Begin Phase 2 of Terra Invicta. It is time to show the galaxy what Deathworlders can build when they stop apologizing for what they are. The Treaty of Non-Aggression was dead. In its place, humanity was creating something that had never existed before. A civilization built on the principle that sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be willing to fight for it. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the Veltar surrender, Elena Vasquez stood before the Federation Council one last time. But now she was not an ambassador. She was a defendant, facing charges that could result in her imprisonment or even execution. The great meeting hall looked the same as always. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled the chamber, their alien forms creating a symphony of colors, sounds, and smells. But Elena could feel the change in the air. Fear hung over the room like a cloud. President Jacques Tai floated at the center of the chamber, its bioluminescent patterns dim with what Elena had learned to recognize as stress. Elena Vasquez. The translation system made its thoughts into words. You stand accused of violating the Treaty of Non-Aggression, conducting unauthorized military operations, and destroying 50 years of galactic peace. How do you answer these charges? Elena stood slowly. Around her, the chamber fell silent. Even the usual background noise of alien communication systems stopped. I answer that every charge is true, she said clearly. I violated the treaty. I authorized military action. And I destroyed the peace that allowed genocide to continue while this council debated proper procedures. A wave of shock rippled through the chamber. Representatives began making sounds of outrage in dozens of different languages. Furthermore, Elena continued, raising her voice above the noise, I would do it again. Every human would do it again, because we have remembered something that this galaxy forgot. Some things are more important than peace. President Shaktai called for order. When the chamber finally quieted, it spoke again. Your actions have consequences that reach far beyond the Veltar conflict. The stability of the Federation itself is now in question. Several species have already withdrawn to join your new alliance. Others speak of forming their own military forces. You have destroyed 3,000 years of progress. Elena activated a holographic display that showed current galactic conditions. The image that appeared made several representatives gasp in shock. I destroyed 3,000 years of stagnation, she corrected. Look at the galaxy now. The Lyrian. Worlds are free and rebuilding under protection that actually works. The Andorian Republic has formed its own defense force for the first time in centuries. The Centauri colonies are no longer defenseless against raiders. The display showed system after system where species were taking responsibility for their own protection instead of relying on Federation committees. You call this destruction. I call it growth. For the first time in millennia, the weak are not automatically prey for the strong. Consular Vextar, the blue-skinned representative from the inner worlds, stood to speak. But at what cost? Fear. Now rules where peace once reigned. Species are arming themselves. Military buildups are happening across the galaxy. You have brought back the age of warfare. Elena looked directly at Vextar. I brought back the age of choice. Species can now choose to defend themselves instead of hoping that committees will save them. They can choose to take action instead of waiting for permission to act. The doors to the chamber opened, and Captain Shun entered with a small group of humans, but they were not alone. Behind them came representatives from 17 different species. Elena recognized several of them. Ambassador Krytak from the Andorian Republic, Counselor Zephani from the Centauri colonies, and others who had been among the first to withdraw from Federation protection. What is the meaning of this interruption? President Shaktai demanded. Ambassador Krytak stepped forward. The tall, reptilian being spoke in perfect galactic standard. We are here to announce the formal establishment of the Terra Invicta Alliance, he said. A mutual defense pact between species who believe that strength should protect the weak, not prey upon them. Elena felt a surge of pride as she watched the alien ambassador continue. The humans showed us something we had forgotten. They showed us that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. They showed us that sometimes the civilized choice is to fight for what is right. More representatives began entering the chamber. Elena counted nearly 50 different species, all of them announcing their withdrawal from Federation oversight. President Shaktai's bioluminescent patterns were flashing rapidly now, cycling through colors that Elena recognized as panic and anger. This is madness, it said. You are destroying everything we have built. The Federation has maintained peace for 3 millennia. Without it, the galaxy will return to the age of constant warfare. Elena stepped forward. Mr. President, Your Federation maintained the illusion of peace while the strong devoured the weak. You prevented open warfare by making resistance impossible. That is not peace. That is surrender. She gestured to the alien representatives who had joined her. These species are not choosing warfare. They are choosing the right to defend themselves. They are choosing to take responsibility for their own survival instead of hoping that others will save them. Dr. Sarah Reyes approached the podium, carrying a datapad with the latest reports from liberated Lyrian worlds. The Lyrian recovery has exceeded all projections, she announced. With proper protection and support, they have rebuilt 17 cities and established new colonies on 3 worlds. Their art and music are flourishing again. This is what peace through strength looks like. Elena watched the faces of the Federation, representatives, as they absorbed this information. Some showed anger, others showed fear, but a few showed something else, hope. The offer stands, Elena said to the chamber. Any species that wishes to join the Alliance is welcome. We ask only that you be willing to defend yourselves and others when necessary. We ask that you choose justice over procedure, action over debate. President Jacktai's patterns had stabilized into what Elena recognized as resignation. And what of those who choose to remain with the Federation? They remain free to do so, Elena replied. The Alliance has no interest in conquest or forced conversion. We simply refuse to be bound by rules that value comfort over conscience. She looked around the chamber one last time, meeting the eyes of representatives who had once been her colleagues. The galaxy is changing. The age of passive peace is ending. You can change with it, or you can cling to the old ways and hope they serve you better than they served the Lyrians. Elena turned and walked toward the exit, followed by Captain Shun and the other human representatives. Behind them came the ambassadors of the new alliance, nearly a third of the Federation's membership dot as they reached the doors. Elena heard President Jactai call out one last time. Where will this end, Elena Vasquez? Where does this path of violence lead? Elena stopped and turned back to face the chamber. It leads to a galaxy where children do not die, while adults debate whether saving them violates proper procedure. It leads to a galaxy where the strong protect the weak instead of ruling them. It leads to a galaxy where peace means safety, not surrender. She paused, letting her words sink in. It leads to a galaxy worthy of the species that inhabit it. 3 hours later, Elena stood on the observation deck of Sanctuary Station, watching the ships of the Terra Invicta Alliance departing for their new territories. Human vessels flew alongside Andorian warships, Centauri explorers, and dozens of other species who had chosen strength over submission. Sarah Kim approached with a personal message from Earth. Elena read it quickly and smiled. What is it? Sarah asked. A message from my daughter. She wants to know when she can join the Alliance military. Elena looked out at the stars, where human ships were already establishing patrol routes to protect Alliance worlds. In the distance, she could see the first construction ships beginning work on New Terra Station, which would serve as the Alliance capital. Tell her, Elena said quietly, that the application process begins tomorrow. And tell her that her mother is proud of her. The Treaty of Non-Aggression was dead. The Federation's monopoly on galactic governance was broken. But something new was being born from the ashes of the old order. A galaxy where Deathworlders did not apologize for their strength, but used it to build something better than what came before. A galaxy where Terra Invicta was not just a battle cry, but a promise. Earth and her children would never again stand by while innocents suffered and committees debated. The day the treaty burned was the day the galaxy learned that sometimes the most civilized choice is to remember what you are truly capable of when everything you care about is threatened. And in the years that followed, when historians wrote about the end of the age of passive peace, they would mark it, not with the first shot fired, but with the moment when humanity chose conscience over comfort, action over apathy, and justice over bureaucratic procedure, the Deathworlders had chosen. The galaxy would never be the same.